Have you ever noticed how your priorities shift as you get older? The things that once felt urgent, like maintaining a big circle of friends, start to lose their importance. And here's something that might surprise you. After 70, you don't actually need friends the way you once did. Now, before you dismiss the idea, take a moment to think about it. What if embracing independence and focusing on your own happiness is actually the best decision you could make? In this video, we're going to explore 6 powerful reasons why friendships may not be as necessary in your later years as they once were. But don't worry, this isn't about loneliness. This is about freedom. It's about letting go of the pressure to maintain relationships that no longer serve you and embracing a life that's truly yours. So stay with me until the end, because you might just find that releasing the need for constant social ties isn't just refreshing, it could change the way you see your later years entirely. Let's dive in. 1. You no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. One of the biggest reasons friendships become less essential after 70 is simple. You've already lived a phase of life where social validation mattered. Think back to your younger years. How much of your time was spent proving yourself, at work, in social circles, even in friendships? Maybe you wanted to impress colleagues, maintain certain relationships, or make sure you were included in social gatherings. But now, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You've built your life, you've made your choices, and you've reached a point where the opinions of others simply don't carry the same weight they once did. Take someone like George, a man in his early 70s who spent decades climbing the corporate ladder. His life was filled with networking events, social outings, and workplace friendships. But the moment he retired, most of those friendships faded. At first, he felt the urge to keep in touch, to make sure those connections didn't disappear. But then he had a realization. Why should he invest energy into friendships that only existed because of convenience? Instead of chasing relationships that never held real meaning, George turned his focus inward. He rekindled old hobbies, took long walks in the morning, and for the first time in decades, he stopped caring about impressing others. And do you know what happened? He felt free. No more small talk, no more forced conversations, no more worrying about what others thought. That's the beauty of reaching the stage in life. You finally understand that your value comes from within, not from external validation. You don't need a group of people around you to reinforce your worth. You define it yourself. 2. Peace becomes more valuable than socializing. Something shifts as you get older. You begin to realize that peace, true, uninterrupted peace, matters more than filling your days with constant socializing. When you were younger, being around people may have felt like necessity. The noise, the gatherings, the endless conversations. It all seemed like part of full life. But as time passes, you start to crave something different. Not loneliness, but quiet. The kind of quiet where you can just sit, breathe, and be at ease. The kind of quiet that comes without the stress of maintaining relationships that feel more like obligations and joys. Many friendships, even the good ones, come with responsibilities. There are calls to return, invitations to accept, and unspoken expectations to stay in touch. But what happens when that starts to feel like more effort than it's worth? Take Eleanor, who is 74 years old. She used to have a large social circle, brunches, phone calls, holiday gatherings. Her calendar was always packed. But over time, she noticed something. Many of these social interactions felt draining rather than fulfilling. The conversations became repetitive. Some friends only called to complain. Others seemed more interested in gossip than meaningful discussions. One day, Eleanor made a decision. She stopped feeling guilty for saying no. She no longer forced herself to attend gatherings she didn't enjoy. She let go of the need to respond to every call and text immediately. And for the first time, she embraced the quiet. She used her newfound time for things she truly loved. Reading, walking in nature, rediscovering long-lost hobbies. And she realized something powerful. Solitude wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. That's the beauty of this stage in life. You don't have to fill your days with endless conversations to feel connected. You don't have to be available just because someone expects you to be. Instead, you can choose peace over pressure. So if you've ever felt guilty for pulling back from social obligations, remember this. You're not withdrawing from life. You're embracing a new kind of fulfillment. And that kind of peace, it only gets better with age. 3. Fewer friendships mean fewer disappointments. One of the hardest lessons in life is realizing that not everyone who calls himself your friend is truly there for you. Over the years, you've probably experienced it. Friends who drifted away when you needed them most. Relationships that turned out to be one-sided. People who were once close but disappeared without reason. And by the time you reach 70, you start to understand something important. Fewer friendships don't just mean fewer social obligations. They also mean fewer disappointments. Friendships, no matter how strong, come with expectations. The expectation to check in. The expectation to be available. The expectation to offer support, even when you don't feel like it. And what happens when those expectations aren't met? Disappointment. You call someone, but they don't call back. You make the effort, but they don't reciprocate. You find yourself giving more than you receive. And at this stage in life, do you really need that kind of stress? Take Walter, who is 78 years old. Over the years, he has seen friendships come and go. Some ended naturally. Others faded because he realized he was always the one putting in the effort. There were people he had known for decades who suddenly became too busy, too distracted, or simply uninterested in maintaining a real connection. At first, it hurt. He wondered what he had done wrong. Why certain people seemed to forget about him. But then he had a realization. He wasn't the one who had changed. He had simply stopped tolerating friendships that weren't mutual. That's the thing. When you let go of the idea that you need a large group of friends, you also let go of the disappointments that come with unmet expectations. You no longer have to feel frustrated when someone doesn't check in. You don't have to feel let down when a friendship fades. Instead, you get to focus on the most important relationship in your life, yourself. And this doesn't mean isolating yourself. It simply means choosing quality over quantity. Instead of keeping a long list of acquaintances, you prioritize the connections that truly matter, the ones that bring joy without effort, the ones that don't feel like an obligation. So if you've ever felt like friendships have brought you more stress than joy, remind yourself of this. It's okay to step back. It's okay to choose peace over frustration. You don't need a long list of friends to feel fulfilled. You just need to let go of the ones who were never truly there in the first place. 4. Your time becomes more precious. As you get older, you start to realize something powerful. Time is your most valuable resource. When you were younger, it may have felt like there was always more of it. More time to spend with friends. More time to invest in social circles. More time to worry about who was in your life and who wasn't. But once you reach 70, your perspective shifts. Every hour, every day, every moment feels more precious. And when you truly understand the value of your time, you naturally become more selective about how you spend it. Friendships, no matter how fulfilling, require time and effort. They're calls to make, visits to schedule, plans to keep. And while some connections are worth maintaining, many are simply habits we carry from the past. Relationships we keep out of obligation rather than genuine enjoyment. At this stage in life, you have every right to ask yourself, is this how I want to spend my time? Does this friendship add to my happiness? Or is it just another thing on my to-do list? Take Richard, who is 82 years old. For most of his life, he was highly social. His days were filled with dinner parties, group outings, and long phone calls. But over time, he started feeling different. The conversations that once felt exciting now felt exhausting. The gatherings that once brought him joy now felt like obligations. One afternoon, as he sat through yet another lunch filled with small talk and complaints, he realized something. He didn't want to spend his time this way anymore. So he made a change. He stopped saying yes out of habit and started saying no when he didn't feel like going out. He stopped spending hours catching up on gossip and use that time for things that truly mattered to him. Instead of filling his days with social obligations, he dedicated his time to what brought him joy: reading, walking, learning new things, and simply enjoying the peace of his own company. And the most surprising part? He didn't feel lonely. In fact, he felt more fulfilled than ever before, because he was finally spending his time in ways that mattered to him, not in ways others expected. That's the key. When you let go of unnecessary friendships, you gain something far more valuable: time for yourself, time to do the things you love, time to enjoy life at your own pace, time to focus on your own happiness instead of trying to meet the needs of others. So if you ever find yourself questioning whether you should keep up with certain friendships, ask yourself this: is this truly the best use of my time? Because at this stage in life, you don't owe your time to anyone. You've earned the right to use it however you choose. 5. True companionship comes from within. One of the biggest misconceptions about getting older is that you need a large circle of friends to be happy. But the truth is, the most important companionship you can have is the one you build with yourself. By the time you reach 70, you spend decades learning, growing, and evolving. You know yourself better than anyone else ever could. And with that self-awareness comes an incredible realization: you are enough. For most of our lives, we're told that being social is the key to happiness, that loneliness is something to be feared. But there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. In fact, some of the happiest people in their later years are those who have embraced solitude, not as isolation, but as an opportunity for self-discovery, reflection, and peace. Take Helen, who is 76 years old. She spent most of her life believing that she needed to surround herself with people to feel fulfilled. She was always making plans, checking in on friends, and filling her days with activity. But over time, she started noticing something. Despite being socially active, she often felt drained rather than uplifted. Many of her friendships were based on routine, not genuine connection. And worse, she found that she was constantly adjusting herself just to fit in. Then one day, she made a decision. She would start treating herself the way she treated her friends. Instead of always checking on others, she checked in on herself. Instead of filling her days with social obligations, she spent time doing things she loved. Instead of worrying about keeping friendships alive, she focused on keeping herself happy. She took long walks without feeling the need to call anyone. She went to cafes with a book instead of making small talk. She spent quiet evenings reflecting on her life instead of worrying about who was around her. And to her surprise, she felt lighter, happier, and more at peace than she had in years. That's something many people don't realize. True companionship isn't about how many people you have around you. It's about how comfortable you are with yourself. When you stop relying on others for entertainment, validation, or conversation, you unlock a level of freedom that most people never experience. You no longer need distractions to fill your time. You become your own source of joy, wisdom, and fulfillment. You stop chasing friendships out of loneliness. And the most beautiful part? When you truly enjoy your own company, you attract the right people naturally. People who respect your space. People who understand your values. People who bring peace instead of pressure. So if you've ever worried that letting go of friendships might leave you feeling lonely, remember this: the best company you can ever have is already with you. And when you embrace that, you'll realize you were never truly alone in the first place. 6. Letting go opens a door to a more fulfilling life. One of the most powerful things you can do after 70 is let go. Let go of the pressure to maintain friendships that no longer bring joy. Let go of the idea that your social circle defines your worth. Let go of the belief that being alone means being lonely, because the moment you release these expectations, you open the door to a life that is simpler, freer, and far more fulfilling. Many people hold on to friendships out of habit, even when those relationships no longer add value to their lives. They attend gatherings they don't enjoy. They answer calls out of obligation. They keep up appearances just because it's what they've always done. But What if you didn't have to do any of that? What if you gave yourself permission to let go of friendships that felt like work and instead focus on the things that truly bring you happiness? Take James, a man in his late 70s. For most of his life, he believed that staying socially active was a key to aging well. He made an effort to keep in touch with old friends, even when those friendships had become distant or superficial. He filled his days with social obligations, thinking that staying busy meant staying fulfilled. But one day, he had a realization. He was enjoying it. The conversations felt repetitive. The gatherings felt like routines. And deep down, he felt more exhausted than connected. So he made a choice. He stopped forcing friendships that no longer felt meaningful. He stopped saying yes just to avoid guilt. He started prioritizing what truly mattered to him. He spent more time outdoors. He focused on his health. He learned new things. And most importantly, he embraced the freedom that came with not having to meet anyone's expectations. And do you know what happened? He felt lighter, happier, more at peace than ever before. That's the thing about letting go. It doesn't mean closing yourself off from the world. It means creating space for what truly fulfills you. It means recognizing that your happiness isn't tied to how many people you have around you, but rather how aligned you are with the life you actually want to live. And here's what happens when you embrace this mindset. You stop worrying about who is in your life and who isn't. You start focusing on what brings you joy. You begin appreciating the little things. Waking up to a quiet morning, enjoying a hobby without distraction, feeling at peace with your own thoughts. You realize that fulfillment doesn't come from maintaining friendships out of duty. It comes from living in a way that feels natural and meaningful to you. So if you've ever felt like you should be doing more to maintain friendships, ask yourself this. Is this truly adding to my happiness? Or am I holding on out of habit? Because once you give yourself permission to let go, you'll find that life becomes simpler, lighter, and more fulfilling in ways you never expected. As we wrap up this video, I want you to take a moment to reflect on what we've discussed. The idea that you don't need friends after 70 isn't about isolation. It's about freedom. It's about letting go of unnecessary obligations. It's about choosing peace over pressure. It's about embracing the life you truly want to live. By now, you've seen how stepping away from friendships that no longer serve you can actually bring you more joy, more time, and more fulfillment than you ever expected. So let me ask you, what stood out to you the most? Maybe you've already started to let go of friendships that felt like more work than joy. Maybe you've noticed how much you enjoy your own company when you give yourself the chance. Or maybe this video gave you a new perspective on why it's okay to prioritize yourself. Whatever it is, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you've learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care, and remember, your happiness is in your hands.